Shalom. Kahal Yahweh Shemiel Shai Bahashim Kakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, even the elders that came before them that taught us his truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and its sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. To the Aquat that are listening, learning, being a pillar of rest, the 144,001 the hopeful back with the World War III Daily Update. Shalom and salutations to you all. Today is War and Rumors of War Tuesday, where we go to Matthew 24 and 6 and we read that in its entirety. Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. There's that famous phrase, wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Then what we do, we read a couple of these versions and we compare them. In NIV, we got rumors of war, wars and rumors, right? In LT, we got wars and threats, okay? And then there's good news, which is the news of battles. So it's, you are going to hear the noise of battles close by and the news of battles far away. So what do we have? We have rumors, threats, news, where's the G in? News of battles far away. And where's Aramaic? Battles. Reports. Reports, news, threats, and rumors, right? News. So let's look for some news and some reports and some some rumors. And what we're going to do is going to go to my homeboy Colonel Damo. Right, so. See? Right, so. Where is it? Right, so. 14 minutes ago, Mexico just handed Trump his backside on a plane. What's really going on with this trade war shit? Let's get an inside scoop. Take it away. Is this rumor? Did Trump threaten Mexico and Canada? Is this news or is this just a report?
Right, so Donald Trump, the Cheeto Dust for Brains president of the United States...
Gotta hear that again. Cheeto what?
Right, so Donald Trump, the Cheeto Dust for Brains president of the United States, has had his backside handed to him on a plate by Mexico in response to the tariffs he has tried to impose on them. 25% tariffs levied was the attempt, though if you listen to the US media and much of the other Western media outlets, you think Trump had actually pulled off some kind of a masterstroke here. Because the way they and many other Western media outlets have presented this story, you'd think this trade war was winning in massive concessions as other states yield to his orange might. And, well, in the case of Mexico, to avert these tariffs, Mexico and the US have entered into some sort of negotiation to find a concession, to find a way to avoid them. Trump's heavy-handedness, having won him leverage, it seems, is how it all comes across. But the truth of the matter is, Donnie went running to Mexico to avert disaster for the US. And the same has happened in Canada as well. The damage to Americans his stupidity would do finally, somehow, has managed to sink in. But the concession Mexico has actually won from Trump in order to call off his own idiocy is something being talked about not so much. I can't imagine why, so I'll do it then. Right, so let's talk about how Mexico just made Trump squeal like a stuck pig over his threatened 25% tariffs on them, shall we? Trump has been celebrating.
He said threatened. I got to point that out. Slovakia. That's what we're doing here. We're filtering this news through the scripture. Did he say threatened?
His threatened 25% tariffs on them, shall we? Trump has been celebrating this apparent slam dunk on Mexico and other nations as well as some kind of a win for the US. They've conceded to the tariffs. They've held their hands up. They've said, please don't do this to us.
Rumor.
Trump, please, let's talk. Let's make a deal. Because Trump is all about the art of the deal, isn't he? Well, truth is he hasn't made any deal at all. He's the one that has very much done the conceded. But to listen to mainstream media, you wouldn't believe it. And if you're going to go for sycophantic distortion of reality, then where better to explain this mainstream positioning than with the good old British BBC? An article published about this just this morning on their website talks about Trump agreeing to pause tariffs on Canada and Mexico, but not China. Here's an explanatory excerpt to get us going. President Donald Trump has agreed to hold off imposing 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico for 30 days, pulling the North American neighbours back from the brink of a potentially damaging trade war. After last-minute calls with Trump, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau agreed to reinforce his country's border with the US to clamp down on migration and the flow of the deadly drug fentanyl. Earlier, Trump made a deal with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. She agreed to reinforce the northern border with troops. In return, the US would limit the flow of guns into Mexico. It very much gives the impression that Justin Trudeau and Claudia Sheinbaum called Trump to try and make a deal here to offset these tariffs. Please, Mr. Trump, there must be a way. But it isn't the case at all. Energy costs would go through the roof without Canada's exports into the US. And obviously fresh fruit and vegetable from Mexico, amongst many other items, of course, would do likewise there. But those are only the items being widely spoken about. There's a lot more than that. But it's that word reinforce in that article there being used in each case that was doing an awful lot of heavy lifting by the Biased Broadcasting Commission. Trump's basis for these tariffs is the International Emergency Powers Act, a nearly 50-year-old little-known law that he thinks gets him around international trade deals that the US has signed up to. But by invoking it, he may actually have gone against the US Constitution. It has never been used to enact tariffs before. It has been used as a tool to impose sanctions on other countries. But to test it in law, it's probably going to take ages, take a lot of court time, isn't it? Better to just outsmart Trump. It's an awful lot quicker. His justification, of course, was the smuggling of the drug fentanyl, the claim being the US's three biggest trade partners all conveniently aren't doing enough to stop fentanyl being smuggled into the US. And therefore his tariffs are justified to make them all crack down even harder on fentanyl smuggling, even as the orange idiot brags about economic prosperity and protecting US jobs and US manufacturing, because he just can't keep the quiet part to himself, can he? So what really happened then between Trump and Sheinbaum to avert these tariffs, which for both Mexico and Canada have now been suspended for 30 days? I can't imagine why when Trump was so determined about them, can you? Well, Trump and Sheinbaum had a conversation. Sure, they did. And by the end of it, Sheinbaum was pulling this face. Very much a happy bunny, isn't she? And why wouldn't she be? Because she beat Trump hands down. Where Trump slapped 25% tariffs on Mexico, Mexico, of course, did likewise, slapping 25% tariffs on goods bound from the US. And of course, on Mexico's part, it doesn't just include fruit and veg going to the US, but a lot more besides. A lot of Chinese car parts for the US automobile industry goes through Mexico to avoid tariffs already on Chinese goods. All of this was jeopardized as well, though. Such is the nature of a trade war. There are no winners. There are no winners in tariff wars, as has often been stated, trade wars. Well, except for Mexico in this case, perhaps. Of course, Trump either didn't realise or didn't expect tariffs coming back on him, and so the operation to stop this mess got underway. Where the BBC claims Sheinbaum called Trump, other sources have claimed the opposite. Tit for tat in the media, you might well think, but given what came out of it versus the BBC's narrative, I find the other sources the more believable ones. Frankly, I find many other sources more believable than the BBC these days. Trump needed to call this mess off. If he had all the leverage, he wouldn't need to offer Sheinbaum anything except an ultimatum, perhaps. But even the BBC stated that Trump agreed to limit the flow of US guns into Mexico, which ends up in the hands of Mexican cartels. Actual smuggling of note happening across that southern border now being fought, mostly on the basis of Trump desperately trying to save face and helpful idiot media outlets such as the BBC in this instance carrying that train of thought. In exchange, the BBC told us Sheinbaum would reinforce, that word, I'll come back to it, the Mexican border with the US with 10,000 troops to combat fentanyl trafficking. And this agreement would negate the need for all of those tariffs. And we could just do away with them all because Trump's got what he wanted and Mexico's got something out of the bargain as well. The thing is, though, Mexico are not reinforcing their border with 10,000 troops at all because they already have them there. And they have had them there throughout the Biden administration, some 15,000 troops on the border since 2021. So the reason Scheinbaum is beaming so broadly is because she got the tariffs called off, got a pledge from Trump to curb arms getting from the US into Mexico, and she's had to do absolutely nothing to win these concessions. This is how desperate Trump now is to dump these tariffs, and how shameless some media outlets are providing cover for him, even here in the UK. They dump these tariffs on his closest neighbouring countries before it causes economic calamity in the United States. And Scheinbaum has ably demonstrated to the rest of the world now exactly how to deal with a tariffist like Trump. Mexico have given nothing, and Trump lost. He's bluffing, and if more media were more honest, more people would know. The situation in Canada is exactly the same. The troops are already on the border that Trudeau is apparently reinforcing it with. Canada having announced more than $1 billion Canadian in spending last December to combat fentanyl smuggling. So all he's promised is to do exactly what he started last December, along with enhanced coordination with US law enforcement, apparently. How have the BBC presented all of this? Well, let's have a look, shall we? President Trump's high-stakes confrontation with the United States' closest trading partners appears to have paid off, with both Mexico and Canada agreeing to stricter border security and taking bigger steps to address fentanyl trafficking. The strategy to leverage the US economy to force concessions from other countries notches a win for Trump's America First agenda, allowing him to follow through on core domestic issues without American consumers feeling the sting of the economic consequences of a continental trade war. Yes, they are absolutely as full of it as Trump is. Everywhere Trump is trying to play this tariff card, he's getting owned, and he's going to continue to get owned the more he tries to play it elsewhere. And when the reality of the US consumer feeling some pain because of it becomes quite obvious to them, hits them in the pocket, he backs down in a heartbeat. For example, how long will it be before he rolls over with China? They have just announced tariffs of 15% on US coal and liquid petroleum gas in retaliation for the 10% tariffs Trump has placed on them. So they've seen him and raised him there, whilst meeting him head on with 10% tariffs on agricultural machinery, crude oil and pickup trucks. They have also levied a complaint with the World Trade Organization, however, calling into question the legality of Trump's tariffs too, essentially China suing the US over them. And so even if Trump does later roll over, the legal action may not end unless he offers China something significantly more sizable than those concessions won by Canada and Mexico, perhaps. He has screwed up, as we all knew he was going to screw up. He screwed up before, and he's screwing up again. And he's had a bit of a spanking over it too, and the media are desperately trying to hide it. What will he screw up next? For more on how badly Trump has handled these tariffs and what else is at stake here, and elsewhere, check out this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share, and subscribe before you do so, however, so as to not miss out on new daily content, and it all helps support the channel as well, which is very much appreciated.
All right, Colonel. I like this guy because his information is good. And he just laid it down. Yeah, Trump got punked. Okay? Trump got punked. Right here. Boom. Boom. Got to take a snapshot of that. That got to go up, don't it? Somewhere. Because, see, just because you got the media on your side don't mean what they're saying is true. All right, so, yeah. So with that, yeah, we can end it right there. So what was averted here, right? And what are they laughing at? Because you know the 10 toes are going to turn on this dude, even though Mexico, I don't believe. 10 toes of the European Union, and I don't think Canada's part of that. Certainly not Mexico, but anyway, let's just get out like this. So what we saw was some threats, some rumors, some news, and some reports. We saw it all right? And we'll get up right here. What is it all going to add up to anyway? World War III. Okay, trade war, right? Everything is a war. Okay, currency wars. Everything is going down right now. Let's get this. This is going to read the same in any version. Revelation 11 and 14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Second woe, World War II. Third woe, World War III coming quickly. With that, we hope the elect are edified, you brothers and sisters. Shalom.